3-story, 12 classroom building in our village in Bandi,
Okay.
in Buxar.
All right. So, how far is that village from, let's say, a big city?
Varanasi.
Sorry?
We stayed in Varanasi in February 2014.
Okay.
We all stayed in Varanasi, about 52 of us. And we traveled in convoy, which took us about 4 hours from Varanasi Hotel to the village to officially open and hand over to the local villagers.
Okay. So, so how was what was the reaction in the village?
They were extremely thrilled because no one had done that, and they were, at the beginning they were very apprehensive because they thought we came for a land share. Until my uncles told them that we didn't come for land share, but we asked them to come in partnership with us.
Okay.
Donate a piece of land and we'll fund the project.
Okay.
And when they were convinced, then they donated a little piece of land, which is still in the trust, and then we funded the project.
Very nice. So, tell me about growing up in South Africa. How was it like for you to grow up in South Africa?
Okay, I was born in November 1960.
Okay.
And it was still apartheid, where we just lived, for 27 odd years I lived amongst Africans. In, I won't say shack, I was more fortunate that we lived in a bigger house, but in a family house. And amongst us were a whole lot of shacklands. There were Indians and Africans, 65% Indians, maybe 35% Africans. And we lived until 1985. That was quite fine.
What happened in 1985?
In 1985, there was an unrest.
Unrest of Indians?
Yes, the Africans came from out of that area and they started burning and chasing all the Indians that lived in the area.
Why?
For no unknown reason, and still cannot be explained up to now. But it was politically motivated.
Motivated by whites?
No, by Africans.
Africans?
By Africans.
Against
Indians, yes.
And it was it any political in nature?
Yes, it was very much so.
So they wanted to disenfranchise Indians or something else?
Well, they wanted the piece of land. They wanted the land where we were living. That was called Inanda. So they wanted the land and they wanted us Indians to come out of there.
Okay.
So most Indians had to run with just the clothes that they wore on the day.
What was the incident like? What triggered the incident, or what happened to the families?
There's nothing that triggered them. They just came all of a sudden at night and they started doing these things.
Okay.
And then they started in one area, and Inanda being a very, very big area. So they started in one area and then it just went on. Before they came to us, they started during the day. And they started just burning buildings and chasing us all. And when they started burning buildings, we didn't react. We thought of safety. So we all ran out with just what the clothes we had and came out.
So what happened to the homes?
A lot of the homes were burnt down to the ground because they were in iron shacks. We had a massive 3-story building, brick and tiled. And because the floor, we didn't have slabs, we had wooden floors. That was burnt through. But the main superstructure was still there.
Okay. So now, did you go to school there?
Yes. I went to primary school there in that area till standard 6 at that time it was.
Oh, what's the name of the school?
Kasturba Gandhi Primary School.
Kasturba Gandhi Primary School.
Yes.
How did you used to go to school?
We walked and went, which was about 3.5-4 kilometers.
Oh, you walked and back and forth.
Yes.
So was it a mixed school or only for Indians?
No, it was an Indian school.
So no white, no African, black were allowed there?
No.
Or mixed black. So as it happened to you, so then what happened in primary school? Then you studied, where did you study?
We studied till, I finished standard 6 there, and then we went to Avoca High School, which was some 10 kilometers away from there, and then there we traveled by public transport bus.
And that school was also segregated?
That was also just an Indian school.
Indian.
At that time, the government had it that we had Indian schools, African school, and white schools, and colored schools. 4 race groups.
Within the same complex?
No, not in the same complex. We had different areas. Like, Durban, which was predominantly a white area.
Okay.
So they had all the schools there, and that was only white children coming to the schools.
Okay.
Inanda was an Indian area, so were Indian schools. And then they also had African schools in Inanda.
So how was the relation that time with Indians and non-Indians? blacks and whites and other colors.
Well, amongst Indians and Africans, we had a very harmonious, very harmonious
But
relationship.
still, there were attacks happened on you.
That was just a one-off attack.
Okay. Were anybody harmed?
There were just about 4 deaths in that time.
Okay.
But besides that, all the Indians that lived there lost everything.
And what did they do? Did they come back?
The Indians didn't go back, so then through government policy, we were housed in community halls all together, and we were fed there for many, many months.
Did anybody held prosecuted or arrested?
No one was arrested, no one was prosecuted.
And this just, nothing
It just
happened.
fell flat.
Going back to schooling, so as you studied, and then when you started to work, how was the life like for in a apartheid and post-apartheid situation?
Well, we got used to that life because we were brought up in that life.
Yeah.
So when we went shopping, we knew we had to go to Indian shops.
Okay.
And we were quite used to that lifestyle.
Yeah. And the whites and others didn't come to those shops.
No, some of the shops, they were integrated, but it were mostly white-owned shops.
Okay.
So we went to those shops.
Okay. And you were allowed to go to the white-owned shops or black-owned shops?
Yes, we could go to their shops, but there were certain facilities like the beaches, the public toilets, they were all separated.
All separated.
You had whites and non-whites. Non-whites meaning Indian, African and colored.
Okay.
You used those facilities and you had a white set of rules for them.
So how does your rest of the family fit into this? I mean, did they go along? Were they affected by this separation?
We were affected by the separation, yes. We've lost a lot of things, our life things. Because I was born and brought up in Inanda, and we would have continued living in Inanda if it wasn't for the unrest. So we've lost everything, yes.
Okay. So, and nobody was compensated for their loss?
No.
Nobody?
No.
Now going back to your trip to Bihar and India,
Yes.
how do you see when you go? You said first they were hesitant and then they welcome. So overall, what's your feeling about trips to India?
Oh, it's the best.
Okay.
It's just you cannot explain it because it's motherland for us. We have our alliances there, and besides, we come from there, but everything else points to India.
Okay. And do people there accept you as brothers and sisters?
Yes, very much so.
Very
much so.
So, coming back to here, how has life changed since apartheid has been abolished? Changed I'm specifically asking for let's say, people of Indian origin, whom they call Indian.
Yes. For a lot of people, it has changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
It has changed for the better because now it's more free that we can go more freely. We can establish businesses. We can live wherever we'd like to live, wherever we can afford to. We can open our businesses wherever we would like to. The policies have all changed. But of late, it's just changing because you have some of these African forums where they are saying we Indians must go back to India. We don't belong to South Africa.
But you're 3, 4, 5 generations. How could that happen? But there are many similarly. Africans also migrated from one province or one district to another district.
Yes, very much.
So, but are they asking to go back to the same province?
It's not affecting the Africans, only affecting the Indians. They're not even asking the colors or the whites to go.
Okay.
We seem, because we are the smallest population and we're very passive Indian, a very passive nation, so they take advantage of us.
Okay.
And we're very small in numbers.
Yeah, the passivity, as you mentioned, has harmed you, as you said, but has any attitude changed yet? That people have more resistance? Have the people developed some resistance? Or
we,
the same?
We have developed some resistance because with the Indians, with some other groups, even with African groups, have come together and said, no, this cannot happen. It's just some mischievous elements that have formed these African forums. And they are the ones that are telling us to go. But the government obviously is not in favor of these things, and they don't like the idea of what they're saying.
Okay. So, when have your kids visited India?
Yes.
What is their reaction?
They love it. They love it.
and didn't feel discriminated or didn't feel any difference there?
Not at all. Not at all.
So I'm almost coming to the close. So is there anything that I didn't ask you'd like to add in terms of life, social relations between you and India, and anything that I have not asked you?
Well, you've asked me about my growing stages, you asked me about my education policy, you asked me about my business. And, I think of the 1.2 million Indians in South Africa, the biggest base is in Durban. And of that 1.2 million, maybe 10% are business people, business Indians. Then you got up to 60% that's above poverty line, 40% slightly below poverty line. And then you have about 20% Indians that's very, very poor. That's always looking for handouts, maybe it's unemployment and things. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I'm told from other people, maybe wrongfully, that there's a perception that many Indians are doing very well. That Indians are very poor, some are very below poverty. It is not. Is it a false that many South Africans think most Indians are very affluent?
That's a false statement to make.
So yeah. So how has it come about? Is it false propaganda or is it something else?
I don't know where they've got the information from, but if they've got this information from overseas, then it's only the rich Indians that will go overseas, and so that's why some people may be.
No, I'm talking about, let's say, local people, local blacks and whites and coloreds often think many Indians are doing very well.
Oh yes, when they look at Indians, a lot of people think we Indians are good for money, and that's why our finance minister was Indian, Praveen Gordhan, and he did a good job. So they think we're good businessmen, and I think that's why they think most Indians. But when they look at demographics, when they look at the statistics, and I think if people study statistics, then they'll see that it's only a small percentage of the Indian population in South Africa that are affluent and well above the bread level.
Yeah.
But I think the majority are still quite down.
Yeah. I forgot to ask you.
Yes.
Your name of your parents?
Rooplal Ramdari.
Okay. And profession?
My father was always a driver.
Okay.
My mom was always a housewife.
And
I'm a businessman.
Okay.
And I belong to many NGOs,
Okay.
few temple societies, FOSA, which is a body that looks after AIDS and tuberculosis patients.
Okay.
And I also belong to the Child Welfare Organization, which is also an NGO.
Okay. And your wife?
My wife is also a business lady.
Okay. And you have children?
I have 3 children. I have a daughter that's married in Johannesburg, working as an accountant. She has 2 girls, 5 years and 1 year old. She's married there. And then I have a son that lives with me. He's married. And he's got a son that's 1.5 years old. And he's with me in the business. And I've got a daughter that's 22 years old that's studying law, staying with me.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar.